Hello again, class. This is lesson 3.5, problem solving and graphs. In this lesson, we are going to work with how we use linear equations or functions to actually solve story problems. This is a real-life application of how linear functions are used. Your family is planning a special party at a restaurant for your birthday. A buffet dinner costs $15 per person. Now think about it, folks. That's probably going to mean that you're going to need to multiply 15 times whatever number of people are going to come to the party. Now for dessert, your parents are going to plan to buy a birthday cake that costs $30. So you're going to pay for the $15 per person, and that means plus the $30 for the cake. You are going to find the number of people that you can invite to the party if your parents are going to spend $275. In step 1, we are going to write an equation for the total cost of the party. Then we're going to graph that equation, and we're going to have to do that by using substitution. Then we will use that graph to estimate the number of people that you can actually invite to the party. So let's get started. Now, notice that this is not the same type of grid that you've been working with lately. This is what we call a first quadrant grid. We only are working with places where X is positive and Y is positive because, let's face it, how in the wide world do you have negative people? So this is why we work with only the first quadrant grid. You will also notice that I have labeled the x-axis as the number of people. That means this is X. And the cost in dollars is along this vertical axis or y-axis, so the cost is going to be Y. Now, if you remember the question is how many people can you invite if you are going to spend $275. That's Y. Now our equation is actually going to be that the cost equals $15 per person. Now remember, our number of people are on the x-coordinate, or x-axis rather, excuse me, plus that cake that your parents are going to spend and provide for dessert. So there is our equation. Now we need to graph it. I always tell students, what's the first thing I tell you to substitute? 0. 15 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 30 is 30. Now quite often these grids are going to be labeled, and they only label like every other vertical line or every other horizontal line. So you're going to have to figure out that if it's 0 and then 60, that means that this one in between must be 30. Now my point is going to be 0, 30. So I'll put a graph, or put a dot there for 0, 30. Now here is where we use our substitution. What if X is 2? 15 times 2 is 30. 30 plus 30 is 60. What if X is 10? 150 plus 30 is going to be 180. And it kind of will help us draw our line. Now this is where you get your ruler out and you start drawing in your line. Now to help me draw, I'm going to put a target point up here at 18,300. And there's my line. Now, I go back to my y-axis. The question was, what if I spend $275? Okay. I have to know that right here is 270. From 240 to 300 is 60, so halfway has to be 30. 275 is going to be just over that line a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, and you can use a ruler, you can carefully kind of mark over to where it connects up with the line, and then bring it down. Now you'll notice that you're somewhere between 16 and 17. Where exactly, we don't know. We'd actually have to do a calculation to figure it out. Now the truth is, you can't invite part of a person. Sorry, you can only invite whole people. So we do the next closest number. So our estimate is that we can invite about 16 people. Let's move on to an example 2. Now you can, if you'd like, hit pause, and then I can go over the problem. Okay, a server at a local restaurant receives an average tip of $2 per customer. There's that per again, and a salary of $10 for a 4-hour shift. We're going to write an equation and make a graph to represent the total earnings for a 4-hour shift. So we have to estimate the total earnings if they serve 12 customers. So we go to our grid. Okay, first thing we want to do is write our equation. Now, again, we remember, here is X. The number of customers is X, and the total earnings is Y. So our equation is going to be Y equals $2 tip per person plus the $10 he makes for the shift. Okay, now we're going to graph. Start where X is 0. We can still find our Y-intercept, 0, 10. Then I'm going to substitute in a little bit, and I'm actually going to use the numbers in between. I'm going to use 10, for example, because this is going up from 0 to 4. That means this is 2, this is 6, this is 10. As I go up my Y-axis, 0, 10, so this is going to be 5. So I'm going to go to where X is 10. That's 20. 20 plus 10 is 30. Now I do that simply because multiplying by 10 is just something really easy to do. And I also have to have kind of a target number for me to draw because I don't have a ruler. So I'm going to go to 20. 20 times 2 is 40, plus 10 is 50. And that line's not real straight, but it'll still help us out. Now, my goal is to say, what happens if I have 12 customers? Okay, 12 customers is here. So I'm going to go up this line, and then you can use your ruler to do this. It's much easier, believe me. You can go over here. Now, this is 30, this is 40, so in between here is 35. Does he make $35? No, not really. This server is probably going to make about $34. Now, is it 34 in some sense? Yeah, probably it is. We just don't know. So we come as close as we can on an estimate. Okay? And that concludes lesson 3-5, Scouting Out.